Hello everybody in the world. I'm Alisa Starr and I make these cards about fucking, and this is up right now because I just got a bunch of these stickers in. I've got about 10 of these. If I see you out tonight, I'm going to go selling them in the box that hangs beneath my boobs, but if you wanted to buy any of the Your Pussy's Tight stickers, they're $6 and you could totally do that today. Just wanted to remind people exists. I'm going to turn on, I like to listen to the Majority Report, so I like to listen to the news while I draw stuff, and I just thought I would invite you to come along. So yeah, that's what we're doing, man. If you have suggestions for me, cool. And if not, also cool. That's it. Oh, Moose is here. Which means you will see cattail. It's hard to change the camera so that you can see
sort of operation in a time of highly polarized two-party.
But you will definitely see cattail because that is his contribution to the system. This first drawing, we're just gonna do like quick one, 20-30 minutes-ish in between laundry. I'm gonna see how it feels to record and stream stuff. I hope you like it. If I'm doing it wrong or bad, please tell me. I haven't streamed before, and so I'm not I know I'm gonna make mistakes. Hopefully you still like to watch me, and that's cool. Awesome. That is great. Cool. Nobody's in the chat. Doesn't matter. Okay. Oh, the Majority Report. And of course, weed. The two things we need the mostest. Oh wait. Okay, I'm gonna set the timer. So I don't forget the laundry. And so the stream doesn't go forever. I'm going to turn on the Majority Report. Listen to them talk politics. You ready? Okay, cool.
So it's not going to work. And so if there's no criminal, liability for anybody, then we have a real problem. So hopefully they don't do that. But then there's this other case which applies to what you were talking about. All these people who've gone to jail. This is the Fisher case. One of the people who've been convicted of obstructing an official proceeding is one of the charges. And there have been hundreds of people convicted of that. The Supreme Court's taken that up. And I have a sneaking suspicion they're going to use that.
Fuck.
And I have a sneaking suspicion they're going to use that either to delay or, to put a stay on the January 6th case, the special prosecutor Jack Smith case, and say, well, we really ought to think this one over and delay that case beyond the point where it would be reasonable to hold the trial, perhaps until after the election.
Right.
Or they're going to go ahead and decide it and say that this doesn't apply, that the law was misapplied in all those cases. And two of Donald Trump's charges are on those same charges. So those would be withdrawn completely. And that would leave Jack Smith with a couple of other charges, fraud against the United States, another one. Oh, Heather?
Deep state.
There you go.
Deep state.
Silencing.
All right, we just lost Heather, and we will try and get her back on. Bear with us, folks. sorry about that. Continue, Heather. Sorry, folks.
Sorry. No, I was just going to say that the January 6th case, to me, it's the most important one. It's the one that presents, I mean, actually, the one in Florida, the documents case should be, but it's not because it's got a judge there that's, obviously going to delay it till after the election. But this January 6th case is super, super important. And I see the court maybe taking some steps that could end up either upending the case altogether or delaying it beyond a point where it's going to make a difference. And that's really too bad because that's the one I think that really should, be pursued before the election. And in fact, right now they're talking about, the special prosecutor wants the Supreme Court to jump in and decide.
Right.
At least on the immunity case, they want him to decide right away. And Trump, of course, is saying this is ridiculous. There's no hurry. Right.
Right.
So, we'll have to. I'm kind of crossing my fingers on this because I think it's super important that they get that done. I mean, one way or the other.
All right. Well, let's we'll jump on across the ledger here since we're talking about the presidential campaign, and it we'll have a better sense in a couple of weeks as to just how dead Ron DeSantis and campaign is, and Nikki Haley's campaign. We'll have a sense of just how dead they are. I mean, it is hard to imagine that if neither one of them wins Iowa or New Hampshire, which it looks like there's a 99% chance they won't. But we've been in a 99% chance scenario before, and we've seen this. But if DeSantis loses in Iowa, which I think he's going to, and
Haley's tied in Iowa, right? And Nikki Haley's ahead of him in New Hampshire.
Right,
if I'm not
but
mistaken.
either way, they're going to drop out.
Yeah.
I mean, or at least DeSantis will. I can't imagine him staying. Nikki Haley could stay in longer because she has that Coke money. But let's look across the ledger at Joe Biden. We mentioned his approval rating. I guess it ticked up 2 points, but I think it's going to take more than that going forward. His numbers with young people, there's just a poll that came out today. I think it was a YouGov one that said they're pretty good, but not in the numbers that it was in 2020. A lot of those people seem to be going to vote for third party, maybe 5 or 10%. That could be a problem. Where are we in terms of this? Like, Joe Biden does not seem to have, at times, like the vim and vigor to go out and, sort of campaign, from behind. Although, as a president, you don't need to go out, right? I mean, this has been a strategy. A lot of presidents are basically doing like a White House run and this and that. And, we haven't seen Donald Trump on the campaign trail in the way that we have in the past, and it's almost like people have forgotten who he is. But what is your sense of how this is going to shake out? I mean, the biggest thing, it seems to be some of those third-party things. And there was a story today where the no labels people are trying to sort of come up with a strategy where they could where they would get into some type of coalition government if they take enough electoral college votes. And I should also say, for whatever reason, Joe Manchin came out with a student debt legislation that really just fixes the website so that you can see your, how much you owe. But, that's the kind of move that, so what is your sense on this?
Well, I'm gonna inject a little hopium here at the end of the year because I feel like we need it. There's an awful lot of bad news on this particular subject, or at least sort of doom and gloom on it. And so I'm gonna take the opposite tack. I agree with you absolutely, and I do think just getting out of the way, this third-party threat is the most important thing. It's the most important impediment to Joe Biden's chances. And it's not just no labels. It could also be RFK Jr. He, who knows? Jill Stein is out there, and you've got Cornel West too. And depending on where they all wind up on the ballot, that's a very dangerous place to be. And they're doing polling that shows that these third parties across the board do pull more from Biden than they pull from Trump. So, this idea on no labels, which seems to be thinking, well, we'll put up Joe Manchin and then that'll give Republicans a chance to vote for somebody other than Trump that they like. That's not how it works out. I mean, Trump is Trump, Republicans are Republicans. You're dealing with that party, and that's just what you have to do. So, there was a big meeting the other day, apparently, among a bunch of Democratic activist groups like Move On and actually Third Way, which has come out as being the big antagonist for no labels, which is kind of funny to me. But hey, I'll take it. It's fine if they want to put some energy toward that. And they were all saying that their main that they believe it's a big grift, and it is. No labels is a big grift. They're taking tons and tons of money from people who apparently have money to burn, but they said in this meeting, apparently, I think this was reported in Semaphore, that they're going to the candidates, the potential candidates like Liz Cheney or Manchin or any of the others, and saying, look, don't do this. You're gonna get Trump elected. Do not run, third party. And in fact, they got a quote from somebody who was apparently on the inside of the Manchin, his insider group, saying that he wasn't going to do it. They came out afterwards and said, "Oh, he hasn't made any decisions."
Right.
But
Cheney was just saying that she was just saying that to sell her books. But now that her book is on the top, she's not. I mean, she's not.
And what good would that do? I mean, it's like what Republican?
Absurd.
They're not going to vote for her. No. So and anything, it might hurt Biden. I mean, I could see some little old ladies going, "Oh, well, I like that Liz Cheney. What a nice girl. I'm voting for her." So it's not going to help. So in any case, there is a lot of activity on this, and people are definitely worried about it. So just getting that out of the way. I honestly think that when people start looking at the way Donald Trump is campaigning, and I see no reason to believe that he's going to change, he's nuttier than he was before. He's always been nuts. We know that. We all watched him, tell people to drink bleach. We assumed that Reagan was dead. They really did. And it was because it was so bad. I mean, the pain of what, and Reagan he had, taken out the flight, the PATCO, the union, the union, the flight, what are they called?
The
air
traffic controllers.
Yeah, union. And he had taken, saying that I have seen it happen where you can go from this really miserable doom and gloom feeling about the economy, and of course we have the hangover from the pandemic, which I think has really been affecting people's, vibe, if you want to call it that. I sense that that's changing. So that's my hope, is that I think that between Donald Trump and what he is, and the economy improving, I think that Biden doesn't have to do a whole lot. It's like you say, he can do like a more Rose Garden strategy, get out there and, make speeches and have other people out there doing the hardcore anti-Trump campaigning, which I hope that the Democrats get on. They need to do that. And I think that he'll eke out a victory. I think, all things being equal, I think he should. Now, a lot depends on, I'm very worried about what's happening with the Israel and Gaza situation, because that's very volatile. And everybody, even the war hawks in the Congress, are now saying, come on, this is ridiculous. You got to do something. So that could, you never know how events are going to affect things. But just from my perspective, I think he's in better shape than most people think. That's my feeling.
Do you think that he needs to start, though, running with a message now a little bit, even though, the primary process hasn't even begun?
Absolutely.
Because I've been bandying this idea about in my head about how Biden really, because yes, rental prices are beginning to tick down, but homelessness went up 12%, and I think it's one of the highest homelessness rates that we've seen in years.
There's a housing shortage.
There simply
is. It hasn't built housing. This has been building for since the financial crisis.
So my idea is, I really think Biden should run on a national housing initiative, on rental prices, on building more housing, potentially repealing the Fair Cloth Amendment in order to get more subsidized housing built, although that's, I'm sure, a little bit too liberal for his taste. But, that's the kind of thing that could really appeal to younger voters who are feeling pretty despondent about the student debt promise kind of falling through, and part of that's the Supreme Court. Part of that, I think, is a failed strategy of Biden and not going more aggressively on that front. But housing is the other thing in rental prices that affect, my generation. What do you think of that idea as something that he could emphasize a bit?
I think it's a fabulous idea. I think it's absolutely a fabulous idea. That's one of the things that has, and it's not just young people. It's like everybody,
right?
Who are. If you're a homeowner and you're old, if you're my age and you've got a lot of equity in your house, things are looking pretty good, right? You can sell out and to some speculator somewhere, and you've got a nice tidy nest egg. But for anybody else, it's a problem across the board. So I think it's a great idea, and it also would tie in perfectly with his emphasis on infrastructure, right? Because he's been, in fact, there is a lot of home building is way up. Just over the last 6 months, suddenly we're starting to see housing really ticking up at new housing. And I notice here because I live in the city, you guys live in the city. I'm sure you're noticing that there's a lot of building.
They've been building buildings here for the past 10 years. It's been
Our audience gets to hear the lovely noises outside of our office.
But that's been going on for a long time. It's really, we're talking about housing all across the country, maybe outside of different cities. We lost Heather again. What's going on with this end of year? How about when we talk about infrastructure, we start to provide better internet for Heather Parton?
That would be nice.
And Digby, we'll start with there. Or she's in the city. Do we have her? See if
Not quite yet.
Back on.
She's coming back in. But yeah, I there's a lot of ways that Biden could put that to the forefront of his campaign and have a message that isn't just a redux of, once again, I'm not Trump. And now we have Heather back.
Yeah, Heather, we were just saying in terms of infrastructure, we got to get improvement on your internet. But
Storms going on. That's
okay.
Sorry about that.
I mean, let's just touch on one thing. I mean, there's some polling out there that was done, and I think it was Ari Rabenhoff just wrote a piece about it in The Intercept that showed, if you look at the cohorts of people who voted for Biden and for Trump under the age of 45, I think it is at this point, there's been a shift that, and it's, again, causal, it's very difficult, but there's a correlation between those people who have student debt and voted for Biden in 2020, who have student debt, are less likely to vote for Biden now. And there's speculation that, and again, very tough to assess this, but there's speculation that the idea of like anticipation of getting student debt relief, having the moratorium because of COVID, operating under those past 4 years, 3 years, anticipating a relief of student debt, has left people feeling like, you know, they were counting on that already. It was like, you know, their eggs, they counted their eggs, and now some of their eggs have been taken away from them, or the anticipation of having those eggs, were taken away. There's counter arguments to that, but I think frankly, I think there's something to that. Biden has provided debt relief for about 3 million of the 42 million who are in debt, but they tend to be older than 45 because of the nature of that debt. It's if you've paid for 20 years and if you still haven't paid off your bill, or et cetera, et cetera. And so, I mean, there's a real sense out there that maybe, I don't know what he could do other than the process that they already are engaging in, because the Supreme Court inhibited it, and it wasn't voted upon by Congress. But it does feel like there needs to be something that Biden is out there campaigning on, and they seem to be sort of without a message at the moment.
Well, honestly, I think one of the things they need to do, and it doesn't have to come from Biden himself. I mean, part of this is, and I saw a thing the other day. It was one of those Bulwark guys, Tim Miller, was talking about how he was at some event and he started talking to, and he said, a person in the cabinet who is very, very good on television. He was being funny. Very, very good on television, and he likes to talk about potholes and transportation. So of course he's talking about Pete Buttigieg, right? Who is very good on television, right? He's a very effective messenger. He said, why don't they have those people out there talking about, not just accomplishments by the Biden administration. I mean, they do that, but also things like explanatory politics, which, somebody like Bill Clinton was really good at, where you go out there and you talk about why things are the way they are. What happened here? What went on that made this happen? The student loan story is a really, really great way for the administration to say, look, here we want to do this. We wanted to do it. These are the roadblocks that we came up against. And I know people don't want to hear excuses, but it's very difficult to understand why things are so gridlocked and why things are so difficult and why it's always pulling teeth and why promises like that are not easily fulfilled. And they need to have people out there, and Biden's not good at this, so it shouldn't be him. But somebody like Buttigieg or others, there are others.
Buttigieg was against student debt relief. I mean,
maybe that's why he can't say anything. Maybe not him, or maybe he's changed his mind. Let's have a positive sort of. He's changed, and he can be out there talking about. But in any case, my point is that it's just people don't understand really what happened, and so I don't blame them for being disappointed and upset and feeling like there was no, like, they were promised something that they didn't get, I think it's fair for them to feel that way. But they have to, somebody's got to tell them what happened, and I don't think they have.
Well, my frustration is just that, and I agree with you that there has to be messaging. But the Biden administration fell on its face from the beginning with this because they sent out letters to people and said, we're going to cancel your debt, and just did this long wind-up where they had 3 or 4 months of let's look into the legality of it, and just said, here you go, conservative group in Missouri or wherever they made that bogus claim about harm, financial harm, which ended up being proven. Actually, they would benefit this Missouri basically kind of
Well, it wasn't, I mean, just to be clear, there was a Missouri entity that serviced loans for the state, and they weren't the ones who brought this suit.
Right, Missouri did on their
Missouri
behalf.
did on their behalf,
Yes.
even though that agency said, no, we don't want you to do this.
No, you're right to clarify that. But my point is just like Biden gave them literally saying like, here it, I'm going to drive down the field. I'm going to call a slant. I'm going to call a run play. I'm going to call a deep pass down the middle. And here you go. And defense, there you go. This is my plan to get into the end zone. And I'm still so flummoxed by that choice. And it really has hurt him, I think, overall, because when these young people got that letter, they thought it was happening. And I don't understand the strategy of doing that first.
I don't either. That's totally. That's a very odd thing to do. Unless you've got it in the bag, don't get people's hopes up.
Right.
And of course now they don't understand what happened, so you're sitting there with a bunch of very disappointed people. And I get it. I totally get it. And I don't know what they can do now in terms of policy to change it. I mean, have you heard any? I mean, maybe I'm not following the subject.
No, they've got this. They could theoretically try, and I think they're trying to do it maybe under a different authority, but that they are going through the, months and months long sort of like process to make sure that it's all legit. It's not inconceivable to me that they'll be done with this process. They'll try and do it again if they win re-election, and then the Supreme Court will screw it up. What's going on there, Bradley? We just had a little bit
Heather,
of a
are you
problem.
still there?
I'm here. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're having all sorts of technical difficulties. All right. Well, let's leave that. We'll have a lot of time in the next 11 months to talk about the campaign and what the Biden administration is or is not doing to sort of like provide a positive, a proactive agenda aside from the fact that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy, which I think is, I think it's a pretty good case, but sometimes, people aren't necessarily always moved by that. I mean, we see this, it's not just in this country. We saw what just happened in Argentina.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen what's going on in, in Europe, et cetera, et cetera. Let's talk just briefly about what's happening with the Republicans in Congress. Like the other, the one thing that I think, to the extent that I do feel hopeful about, is that the Democrats are going to retake the House. So there will be some, in the worst case scenario, Donald Trump wins and he gets the Senate, there will be some slow to the roll. It will be a real problem for the judiciary again, which is an issue.
It's unthinkable, Sam. He can't win again. I mean, it's not.
I think people need to think about it so that they get them motivated. But it is, the idea of Trump winning and there being a theocrat as the Speaker of the House. I mean, it's one thing to have the Vice President, but I don't know that the Speaker isn't more powerful with a Republican president if the Speaker isn't more powerful when you're talking about theocrats. I know that Pence was the VP. Oh, we lost it again. I don't know what's going on.
Heather is having those thunderstorms in her area, so I feel like that's got to be something like that. Well, there she is
There
again.
she's back.
I am so sorry. I can't explain it. It's just I got weather here, I guess. It's ridiculous. Anyway.
The idea of like what's happening in Congress. I mean, I haven't seen any polling of like the 18 districts that Biden won and are represented by Republicans, but you can see, the Republicans getting nervous. Particularly the ones in New York, I noticed.
Mm-hmm.
They were very excited to get rid of George Santos, but they've had to vote for the impeachment. I mean, I think that's going to be the sort of a real problem for them down the road, it seems to me.
Oh, for sure. And then you've got this new ruling that the gerrymander is now out in New York, so that should make a difference.
Yep.
Really, I mean, Mike Johnson we really take a minute to talk about him because and I'm sure you have in the past here, but I'm telling you, this guy is something else. And he is as dangerous in a different way as Donald Trump is. And the combination of the two of them is terrifying. Because he is a real theocrat. I mean, we're not talking just sort of, a pretend guy who's out there, going to the mega church in order to, get votes. I mean, he's for real. In fact, this week, I don't know if you remember, Sam, probably close to 20 years ago, we were talking about this, and it was part of the rise of the theocratic right during the early 2000s. When we were talking about those purity balls, do you remember those?
Oh, the purity balls where a father takes daughter there.
So
He marries his
grateful.
daughter. Basically, she's wearing a wedding dress, and they exchange rings, and she commits herself to her father until her husband comes along.
Yep.
All
So
that
gross.
It was really, let's talk grooming, huh? I mean, that's really some sick stuff. Mike Johnson just turned up. There was some tape of him. He and his daughter did the purity ball thing, and it's on tape. You can see him doing it. Is this poor little girl, as his daughter. I mean, this is what we're talking about. That is the far extreme religious right, Christian nationalist, the worst of the worst. And this guy is, he's second in line to the presidency. Extremely powerful job. And his connection there with that far right aspect of Christian nationalism is just, it's terrifying to me. And when you combine that with Trump and his newfound love of Adolf Hitler, who, copied him, we're talking about a Republican Party that's gone even further than I anticipated they would be able to go. And they seem to be running with it. I don't see any backtracking. I don't see any, Trump came out this week and his people said, we like this poisoning the blood thing. We're going to run with it. He's not backing off. And so this is a very terrifying thing. And the only good news is that the Republicans in the House are so inept and so dysfunctional that they're unable to actually do much. And of course, thank God we have a Democratic Senate and then, a Democrat in the White House that stops them from actually passing any of their legislation. But nonetheless, I mean, this is a very crazy time. I mean, this isn't, this is beyond what we've seen before. Let's just put it that way. And I think people need to really be aware of just how.
And Johnson is very. He first off, he's got the whole lying for the Lord thing down.
Yeah,
he is, he's out there. He realizes that the American public cannot be sold this, his agenda at the moment. I think he realizes the American public can never be sold the agenda. I don't think that's the issue. The issue, I think, is he realizes, we don't have the other branches of government. We don't have the other House. We don't have, we don't have the Senate. We don't have the presidency. So there's, keep the powder dry. But yes, this guy is full-on theocrat. And second in line to the presidency, but far more powerful, it seems to me, in terms of being able to actually create legislation than the vice president. And so,
the vice president, who cares about the vice president?
Exactly.
Right?
I mean, Pence was the highest ranking theocrat that we have had in this country, but I really think that Mike Johnson is this guy now.
Yeah.
A lot to be sort of concerned about as we go into 2024. We're obviously going to be talking about just about all this stuff again, it seems to me. I mean, we're going to enjoy, I think, Ron DeSantis, sort of whimpering away.
That's my Christmas present to myself, is to enjoy watching Ron DeSantis disintegrate before my eyes. It's a beautiful thing.
But I think we're going to watch, I think we're going to, I mean, the last thing I think, that it's, aside from the presidential election being fairly ominous, I think we're going to be seeing this Israel assault. I think this is going to be a story that's going to last well into 2024.
Yep, I agree. I agree.
And
how can it not?
Well, I also think that, there's reports that Netanyahu and parts of his government want to go into Lebanon, and we see the Houthis, hitting the Red Sea, shipping. Joe Biden has yet to indicate that he's not willing to sort of like shut down what Israel is doing or attempt to. And it's unclear to me that he's not like willing to stay with Netanyahu, even if this thing becomes the regional conflict that supposedly they are desperate to not have happen, and expand beyond that. And there's no indication that Netanyahu wants to do anything other than to continue to have a conflict going, because it's the one thing that is keeping him in office, which may be the one thing that's keeping him out of jail. And, the situation where he's like, where the Israeli public is like, as soon as you're done with this, you're out of office. Well, his incentive is, how do I not be done with this? And, they have a parliamentary system where it's like, we need to put off elections because we have a major war happening on our northern front, would be, one of those type of situations.
And Biden is leaking to the press in the U.S. that he wants to see a change of power. We're in a situation, and I said this at the start of this, when MBS raised, throttled down the production of oil with OPEC, right, ahead of the 2022 midterms, because he didn't like that Biden had some tough rhetoric on him during the election, and then Biden fist bumped him, and, all is well, or whatever. We're going to see this times, exponentially with Netanyahu, who is, as Biden begins to just have tiny, tiny criticisms of the massacre in Gaza, my guess is, as he ramps it up, he's going to also see this as an opportunity to hurt Biden electorally, because there's nothing more that someone like Netanyahu would want than Trump to get back in office.
Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind. I mean, it's the same thing with Ukraine and Putin. They're watching what's happening here, and both Netanyahu and Vladimir Putin see Donald Trump as being an ally. And so it works very well, and he is. So, that they're not wrong. This is going to be the way that this is being handled by them and then by the Biden administration in response is going to have, an effect on the election as they plan. And that's what I'm saying, we don't know what events are going to happen here that could, this potential for a regional war, and maybe worse, when you consider all the hot spots all over the place, that's hanging out here, and we just have to hope against hope that doesn't happen, because that's a whole different, that's a conversation I don't think any of us are really prepared to contemplate at the time.
Well, Heather, thanks for wrapping up this year. It's been a while since we had, I feel like 2020 wrapping up was sort of fun. 2021, we were still a little bit hopeful because we thought that maybe this Build Back Better could actually happen, although I do recall us being like, you should have done this in June instead of letting Cinema and Portman walk in the door. So I guess it's right now we're on maybe one for every 4 years Is that the way it works?
That are happy?
Where we're sort of optimistic. But you were a little bit optimistic about the election, so that's good.
I mean, I try. I don't want to succumb to just being so depressed that I can't get up in the morning. So I'm gonna try and keep myself, you know, somewhat.
Teach me your
self-care
tips.
is important.
Teach me your tips.
All right, we just lost you again. There we go.
Okay.
Have a great, have a happy holiday of Christmas,
Yes,
if that is also what you happen to celebrate, and a happy New Year.
You too. Can't wait. We'll see you next year.
Okay.
See you, Heather.
Bye, Heather.
Bye.
All right, folks. I guess, did we go to the fun app now, or do we do a freebie Friday?
It would be very much in the holiday spirit if we were to do a Freebie Friday.
What is Monday Christmas?
Yes.
Okay. We're not doing a show on Monday.
Or you could continue your war on Christmas and put the fun app behind the paywall.
I'm not going to.
Or continue.
That's not.
Too many civilian
that's collateral.
casualties.
Yeah, that's collateral damage. Folks, freebie Friday. But let's take a break, head to the fun half, but we'll leave it open for everybody, okay?
Great.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll come right back. It is a freebie Friday. Just a reminder, it is your support that makes this show possible. You can become a member at jointhemajority.report.com. When you do, you not only allow this show to survive and thrive, you get the free half free of commercials. You get to IM the show via the app. You get that discount on our merch. Shop.majorityreportradio.com. Please, go buy the dog collars.
Yeah.
It sounded like such a great idea. We've got people have bought them, but at the end, within like 6 to 8 months, we own all the collars, because it's not, you can't do dog collars. Apparently, it's like you can't, you got to order them, purchase them, and then that's it. And they're $12. I mean, you could actually even use it if like you're very, 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 very thin. Maybe for your kids, like a kid belt or something like that. I don't know, or a headband, or just a
headband with a buckle on it.
I don't know what's going on these days. Or maybe weightlifters can use it around their wrists and attached. There's so many uses for it.
I mean, I don't understand why the dog collar has to be multi-use. I feel like there's many dogs and they all need collars.
Yeah, buy the dog collar, but there's also like the Whoopsie T-shirt and the Left is Best. I mean, there's all sorts of great merch there. The days of the week. So check it out. Shop.majorityreportradio.com. Also, don't forget justcoffee.coop, fair trade coffee, and featuring the Majority Report blend.
We finished it,
Use
you guys.
the coupon code Majority, get 10% off. It's great coffee, and their prices are extremely reasonable for ground nut ground. I mean, whole bean. I think you can get it ground too if you want. But check it out, justcoffee.coop. Our Discord. If you're feeling a little bit lonely for us this next week, head over to majoritydiscord.com. Over 10,000 of you are over there posting. Great way to catch up on stuff. Emma, ESVN.
Well, we gave our picks against the spread after my 3-0 week. Let's see if I can keep it going. Kowalski has sent us some methods of punishment, and
oh my God, that soda looks disgusting.
Yes, well, don't worry. One of us will be chugging it in some disgusting fashion at the end of this competition.
They're all on display on the bookshelf.
Oh, I see them. I'm looking at them right now. So thank you, Kowalski, for that. YouTube.com/ESVN show for that. And we have Left Reckoning, right, for Matt?
Yes. David Griscom did the scream as Matt was traveling on Tuesday. He spoke with I forgot. I'm gonna get her name. 1 second. It's Kelly Klein-Heister Camp. She is a geographer, PhD student at Syracuse University. They were discussing Germany's climate nexus. I just want to get her full name here. Nicole Klein Heisterkamp Gonzalez. She's a PhD student in geography at Syracuse University to discuss her research on the labor environment nexus in Germany. So that was at youtube.com/leftreckoning for that, as well as patreon.com/leftreckoning if you'd like more, and the postgame.
All right, folks. We'll see all of you in the fun half today for Freebie Friday. 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now, and I don't think it's going to be the same as it looks like in 6 months from now, and I don't know if it's necessarily going to be better 6 months from now than it is 3 months from now, but I think around 18 months out, we're going to look back and go like, wow. What? What is that going on? It's nuts. Wait a second. Hold on for a second.
Okay, we did it. We made this bear.
Welcome to the program.
Hey.
I feel like I should have given them names, but
What
next
is
time.
up, everyone?
Thanks, guys.
No, me too.
You did it. Let's go, Brandon.